How's it going, ladies and bruises? I'm Bobby Sixkilla and welcome back to Route Double. We are currently in the park, chilling out with Mahiro because we were talking about our childhood and we just finished our school field trip. So we thought we'd hang out at the park for a while, I suppose. Yeah. A refreshing afternoon breeze blew through the trees. Man, does this bring me back? How many years has it been? I wonder. I don't even remember the last time I came here. You were the center of attention back then, Natsuhiko. All the kids would gather around you right here to play. Like Renren and Himechi and... oh, and Ipon. Mashiro started listing the friends that they had back then by their nicknames she'd made up for them. And sure enough, hearing all those names made Natsuhiko feel nostalgic. Yeah, that's right. There was Raichio and Sugizo and Mariuchi too. I wonder how they're all doing. I'm sure they're doing fine. Natsuhiko offered words of mere consolation. They pretty much hadn't seen any of their friends from back then in a long time. Natsuhiko and Mashiro attended Rokume Academy, a school exclusively for communicators. And aside from Natsuhiko, Mashiro and Yuri, none of the other kids had any aptitude as communicators. The paths their lives took diverged, and after years and years, they simply found themselves going their separate ways. But still, you really were good at making friends back then, weren't you, Natsuhiko? You think so? You made friends with all the kids you met in this park, regardless of their school or age, remember? Even when Yuri moved here, you still made friends with her quickly, right? Yeah, I guess. I'm just gonna keep it maxed out, because why not? I want to be friends with her. She's my favourite too. True enough, that was the sort of kid Natsuhiko was, which was why he made friends with Yuri, even though she was 2 years older than he was. So how come you've become a guy who's not receptive of a transfer student? Oh, I see now. So that's how it is. You brought me here just so you could bring that up, huh? I wonder about that. Mashiro smiled deviously. Though, I guess in a certain sense, you haven't changed from back in those days, though. I mean, even back then you'd sometimes get stern with kids you had a hard time with, didn't you? Did I? You did, like, with me, for example? Huh? Natsuhiko stared blankly at her after hearing such a sudden statement. Me? When was I ever stern with you? Hey, now that's rude, don't you remember? Come on, we used to fight all the time in this park, didn't we? Fight? Oh. That word suddenly jogged something in Natsuhiko's memory. It was something that happened 10 years ago. Natsuhiko and Mashiro were having a fight in the park that day. Oh yeah? Well, you're a pufferfish lantern, Natsuhiko. So what, you're a smiley egg crab, Mashiro? They were fighting over something as trivial as Mashiro calling Natsuhiko's favourite superhero show boring. A flustered Yuri watched the fight from the sidelines. Natsuhiko, Mashiro, stop fighting. Shut up, Yuri. Did you just tell her to shut up? How can you act so mean to Yuri, Natsuhiko, you meanie? What was that? The two of them glared at each other, leaving Yuri alone. At this point, Natsuhiko and Mashiro had each already started to get along with Yuri. But there was still a terrible animosity between Natsuhiko and Mashiro. And what do you mean by egg crab? That doesn't even make any sense. Your face doesn't make sense. Stupid. Stupid. Grr. Grr. Back in the day, Natsuhiko and Mashiro often fought over every little thing like this. Natsuhiko would get along with everyone else, but for some reason he had a hard time with Mashiro. I don't ever want to see you again. Eventually, Mashiro threw down a sharp, parting remark and walked away. You stole the words right out of my mouth. Natsuhiko turned around and shouted back. That was an everyday occurrence for those two. Even Yuri complained as she watched Mashiro walk away. Geez, Natsuhiko, why do you always have to get in a fight with Mashiro? Because she's a cheeky little brat even though she's a girl. She always snaps at me no matter what I say, she always has. Natsuhiko and Mashiro's houses were nearby, so they knew each other before they could remember. They went to the same kindergarten and therefore had more fights than they could count. But Natsuhiko, I thought you wanted to be a hero of justice. So you shouldn't fight with girls then, should you? Ugh. Yuri hit a weak spot. Natsuhiko had a strong sense of justice. He was a boy who wouldn't hesitate to challenge bullies that were bigger than him. So he yearned to be the sort of champion of justice that he saw in manga or on TV. And Yuri was right, but Mashiro's got a filthy mouth, and he punches hurt. so I'm sure she's some sort of evil underling. That's not true. Mashido's a good girl. She's the first girl that became my friend too. Yuri vouched for Mashido with a warm voice. Yuri was 2 years older than Natsuhiko, so he wouldn't get in a fight with her. What Natsuhiko expected of girls was that they would be gentle and mature like Yuri. In other words, the exact opposite of Mashido. Mashido was his age and just as strong-willed as he was, which is probably why they would often bump heads. It'd make me happy if you two would get along more. I wouldn't hold my breath, that's never gonna happen. Natsuhiko exaggerated. Mashido teased Natsuhiko as he remembered that incident. So, remember now? Yeah, I guess. True enough, it was as Mashido said. They were mortal enemies back when they were kids. Well, so what? That was then, this is now. True, I guess. Back then I never would have guessed that we'd get along. You never know how relationships turn out, after all. Exactly, so try and get along with Salyu too, okay? Easier said than done, Natsuhiko thought as he objected. No, look, the reason I was able to talk to people so easily was because I was a kid. Besides, isn't Salyu the one building a wall between us? I mean, she shunned all those other girls who tried to talk to her in class too. Maybe, but still, think about it. She really couldn't help it. Why not? I mean, if I moved all the way from France to Japan, and even had to transfer it into a communicator-exclusive school for the first time, I'm sure I'd want to build walls around me too. Natsuhiko was taken aback by what Mashido said. Certainly, from an outsider's perspective, Rokume Academy may indeed be a bizarre school. Communicators may have started appearing all across the world, but looking at humanity as a whole, they are still an exceptionally rare breed. For example, even in Japan, the proportion of ordinary people to communicators was said to be 25,000 to 1. And this school was filled with nothing but students who were that rare 1. Natsuhiko couldn't even begin to imagine what an ordinary person would think. Let's say Salyu's been surrounded by ordinary people her entire life. I'm sure she'd be nervous by the sudden change. True. If you think about it, it's kind of scary to think that the person next to you could be capable of using empathy. Natsuhiko, you're the type who fears having their mind read too, aren't you? Well, yeah, sure. There may be some people that are okay with the notion, but I find it frightening. There probably wouldn't be an issue if telepathy were the only BC ability. However, the problem lied with the other ability, empathy. If telepathy was the ability to convey your mind to others, empathy was the ability to read the minds of others. So for that reason, a lot of ordinary people seem to fear the communicators. There apparently used to be an anti-communicator discrimination in the past too, which is why the government enacted various policies in order to protect communicators. An example of such legislation was the Communicator Protection Bill, aka the BC law, enacted 14 years ago. Part of that plan included the establishment of communicator-friendly wards like Rokume City, and special schools like Rokume Academy. The rare 1 out of 25,000 individuals naturally gathered to the city. About 350 communicators lived in the city, or 20% of all communicators currently in Japan. 1 in 500 city residents were communicators, and thus many communicators came to live in the same place and received focused protection. Japan led the world in performing such measures, and for its efforts Japan became known as an advanced BC nation. Well, I don't know how it is in France, but it's probably a completely different environment than it is here. Exactly, so in other words, Salyu hasn't got used to her environment yet. So it's only natural she'd be nervous, so you gotta be nice to her, okay? Mashido asked with a smile, which moved Natsuhiko. He was impressed by her consideration and attention to detail. Mashido, I don't know how to say this, but you're a good person. What are you talking about? I'm just copying what you did back in the day. Really? Was I really that good a guy back then? Well, I think you still are a pretty good guy, Natsuhiko. Your one weakness is that you can get stubborn sometimes, though. Yeah, maybe you're right. Natsuhiko gave a wry smile. He couldn't completely approve of Mashido's viewpoint. After the years went by, his way of thinking solidified. It wasn't something that could be unlearned that easily. But nevertheless, fine, you win, Mashido. I'll try to lower my guard a little at least. Yeah, that should be good enough. This will have to do for now and all. What's that? Another anime quote? Yeah, one from way before we were born, though. Their conversation derailed before long. A calm breeze enveloped them, and thus the two of them spent some leisurely time at the park. Once the sun had set, they boarded the bus again and headed home. The bus dropped them off at the stop closest to their homes. Masato would ordinarily stop by her house, but since they stayed out late, she went directly to the Tenkawa residence today. But by the time they reached the house, Natsuhiko noticed something strange. Huh? There was a jet black car parked out in front of his house. Now that's an expensive looking car. Whose do you think it is? Beats me. With his head tilted to the side, Natsuhiko walked past the car and entered his home. They took their shoes off at the entrance and headed to the living room when... I'm home. Natsuhiko and Masato were greeted by an unbelievable sight. Salyu? Salyu was there in the Tenkawa's living room. Yuri was standing right next to her with a smile. What's this? Salyu, why are you in my house? Because I'm going to live here starting today. What, you two? Why? Yuri, did you hear anything about this? Yuri didn't clearly answer whether or not she knew about the situation. Salyu spoke to Natsuhiko without giving Yuri a single glance. The decision's been set in stone, there's no more room for argument. Set in stone? Wait, for starters, why does it have to be our house? Well, at that moment a voice rang out from further inside the room. It was my suggestion. Natsuhiko turned to the voice in disbelief. It's been a while, hasn't it, Natsuhiko? Mom? Professor? There stood Natsuhiko's mother, Miyoko Tenkawa, which meant that the car outside was probably a courtesy car for the professor. As a renowned physicist, she was extremely busy by nature. She was always stationed in Labo, and very rarely came home, meaning her communication with her son was essentially non-existent. You didn't say a thing for quite some time, and this is how you greet us? I've been busy, so I couldn't help it, could I? Fine, whatever. Anyway, what's the meaning of this? Why's Salyu gonna live here? Yui just moved here from France, so her place of residence hasn't been decided yet. So I'm letting her stay here for the time being. The professor called Salyu by her real name, Yui, somewhat intimately. But that only got on Natsuhiko's nerves. So we have no say in her, huh? What kind of connection do you even have to Salyu, Mum? She's my distant relative, meaning she's your relative too. Huh? Now that he thought about it, his mother's maiden name was Sanomiya. Well, that should have been a giveaway, shouldn't it? And he did get the feeling that she said she'd lived in France before, so perhaps they really were related, but still. Is that true? What would I gain by lying about it? My grandfather's younger sister's grandson married a French woman, and she's their child. That makes you third cousins with 8-degree kinship though, so you're essentially unrelated. No, in that case, there's even more reason why having her here is a little... Why not? We've got an empty room, don't we? Are you okay with that, Salyu? No objections here. If that's what the professor wants, then I'll oblige. Yes, the decision's set in stone. Any other objections, Natsuhiko? I've still got work left to do, so I'll be heading back to Labo. Fine, have it your way. Natsuhiko lost his temper over how the professor slowed down for nobody. But the professor merely sighed and addressed Masato. Masato, I'm sorry for not asking permission beforehand. Take care of Yui for me, okay? Sure, but... It appeared not even Masato could quite understand the situation. She put a finger up to her temple and muttered in a worried tone. It's just all so sudden, but, is everything okay? It is. I already told Yui to leave everything she needs to know about this household. Huh? Is that right, Salyu? Yes, naturally. I know about how Natsuhiko and Yuri live together, and that you know the circumstances and come here to prepare meals, Masato. Okay, as long as you know. I mean, if you didn't know, then, well, I'm sure it'd lead to some misunderstandings. Damn it, Masato, that's not what's important here. The professor ignored Natsuhiko, the only one staunchly against the situation, and continued. Okay then, get along now, kids. And with that, the professor slipped past Natsuhiko and left the house. Soon enough, the car's engine roared and she zoomed away. She's as one-sided as ever. Hearing Natsuhiko's murmur, Salyu spoke out. Is it a bother for me to live in this house? Huh? Oh, no. This isn't what the professor said would happen. She said you guys wouldn't object. When he heard that, Natsuhiko became furious again. Not at Salyu for saying that, but at his mother for her complete disregard for his and Yuri's opinions. Yuri strained to put a smile on her face, somewhat uncomfortably. Come on, Natsuhiko, what's got you so upset? What's the problem? The household just got one more member. Doesn't that sound fun and exciting? Yeah, I guess it does. Natsuhiko tried to sound amicable in front of Salyu, but in his heart of hearts, excitement wasn't exactly what he wanted. There was no way in hell he could have expected this. His life was changing drastically in ways he couldn't understand. He just started to let his guard down, only for it to get pushed right back up. Mashido made dinner that day, just like any other day. Everyone sat around the table. The only difference today was the addition of Salia. The conversation was shockingly sparse. Mashido asked Salia various questions, but only received short, blunt answers. Yuri was there too, but Salia basically didn't speak to her, same with Natsuhiko. And thus dinner ended without any improvement to the awkward atmosphere. Okay, you three, I better be heading home soon. Yeah, thanks again for today. See you tomorrow, Mashiron. Yeah. After Salia gave a non-committal response, Mashido sent her a fleeting glance and then spoke. So, Natsuhiko, would you mind walking me back? For just a bit. Huh? That's odd. You usually don't ask me to... Right as Natsuhiko began to talk. Take a hint. I want to talk to you about Salia's situation. Mashido continued by means of telepathy. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Thanks. Natsuhiko nodded and left the house with Mashido. Oh boy, things sure have taken an unexpected turn, huh? Mashido said with a wry smile as they left the entryway. You could say that again. You don't like it, Natsuhiko? I'm not particularly bothered by it personally. I'm just worried about how Yuri feels about it. Of course. I'm just worried the sudden change in environment could open up old wounds for Yuri. I hope she's okay. Naturally, Mashido was aware of how Yuri's past experiences prevented her from going outside. Mashido and Natsuhiko had consulted each other from time to time and agreed to quietly watch over her, but... it might be rash of me to think this, but maybe it'll actually be beneficial for her in that regard. Huh? What do you mean? If nothing changes, Yuri will never be able to rejoin society. And to be honest, I really think that's a bad thing for her. Yeah. But living with Salia means she gets to come in contact with people besides us. See? Let's just max everybody out, which we already have. I think that'll be a plus for Yuri, and maybe even the professor brought Salia here with that same intention. I wonder. Natsuhiko could only halfway agree with that assessment. Mashido's reasoning made sense, but he didn't expect that sort of thoughtfulness from his cold mother. True, Yuri didn't really look like she was against it. Hopefully that's the case. Well, let's just settle into it. I'll be there to help in my own way. I see. I'm sorry you had to get involved in all this too, Mashido. Nah, it's fine, it's fine. More importantly, I'm worried about how Salia feels too, not just Yuri. How Salia feels? I mean, look, that poor girl's probably nervous, don't you think? I mean, she's been so quiet. Huh? Nervous? Was that what it looked like to you? Well, yeah. All things said and done, she's still a 13-year-old girl, you know? Of course she'd be nervous when she was told she had to live with an older boy. Go talk with her some more so she can relax a bit, okay? I guess you're right. Natsuhiko couldn't bring himself to agree, but for now he decided to just go along with what she'd said. Okay, I guess I'll give it a shot. That answer again? No, it's not like I'm trying to just blow you off or anything. Nah, it's okay. I'm counting on you. Well, see you tomorrow, Natsuhiko. Yeah, later. Mashido patted Natsuhiko on the shoulder before walking off into the night. Gee, she's so soft-hearted. That was also one of Mashido's good points, but when it comes to me, it gets kind of difficult. He muttered before heading back into the house, but then... What's difficult? A voice called out from the darkness of the entryway, startling Natsuhiko. How long you been there, Salia? I just came out, since you were taking so long to get back. Did you hear my conversation with Mashido? No, not at all. Really now? Natsuhiko had some doubts, but he couldn't read anything out of Salia's expression. She's straight up, man. She would just tell you if she heard anything. Now, it's a pretty dumb conversation anyway. Something about how you're so oh so cute. Natsuhiko tried to gloss things over, but immediately... Cue. The stuffed animal in Salia's arms squealed. What? Natsuhiko was once again startled. At the same time, Salia's expression stiffened. Salia? Did that thing just squeal? What of it? Salia answered as if it was only natural for it to squeal like that. What of it? Is there some sort of trick behind that thing? Salia abruptly spoke in Natsuhiko's confusion. Natsuhiko, you're keeping your guard up around me, aren't you? Huh? No, I wouldn't say that. That would be upsetting. I was sent here to protect you after all. Huh? You protect me? Hold on a second, why would you have to protect me? The professor asked. Mum did, but... No, but still, I mean... What exactly would you have to protect me from? I'm not exactly a VIP or anything. The professor said it's dangerous around here lately. There's no telling what he could get dragged into or when. What? Natsuhiko honestly couldn't understand Sully's words or his mother's intentions. Sally may have been good at sports and studies, but she'd be the last person you'd imagine to be a bodyguard. Why do I have to be protected by a girl like you? Isn't it normally the other way around? Not like I have any obligation to protect you, though. It's not like I have any obligation to protect you either. Not following you here. What exactly could I get dragged into in the first place? The moment he started to speak, Natsuhiko suddenly remembered what happened yesterday. Sully was there at the scene of Ukita's accident. Strange things might start happening around you from now on. But for now, just please be careful. Come to think of it, Mr. Ukita did say that. Natsuhiko couldn't help but feel that those words and the situation had something to do with all this. Don't tell me that Salyu's arrival could be one of those strange things Mr. Ukita was talking about. What did he mean that even stranger things were going to start occurring? Did Salyu come here to protect Natsuhiko when the time came? Salyu, does Mom think I'm going to get into some sort of danger? I don't know the particulars either. I was just told to protect you. Salyu answered indifferently. Did she really not know the details, or did she merely not feel like answering? Natsuhiko couldn't even tell. Anyway, Natsuhiko, you should just let me protect you. If you put up your guard around me, it makes my work difficult. Everybody's maxed out. Let's keep moving. And it makes me feel bad when you're unkind to me. Stop. I'm sorry about that. Natsuhiko was overwhelmed by her persuasive power. She was sent here to protect me. What's this girl saying? Natsuhiko gazed at Salyu, not quite understanding what was going through her head. But she showed no intention of talking whatsoever. Should I try to ask her what she means? Would she even humour me with an answer though? As Natsuhiko mulled over his choices, Salyu abruptly spoke up. Natsuhiko, huh? You like stars? Stars? Salyu pointed up. And sure enough, there were countless stars floating up above. I don't really like them or hate them, to be honest. I see. So what is the... Salyu cut Natsuhiko off before he could finish. What's the meaning of the name Natsuhiko? Come again? Natsuhiko stumbled over his words like a fool in light of her barrage of questions. I don't know, I'm not even sure if there is a meaning behind it. Natsu is summer. Were you born in summer? Yeah, in June, what about it? I see. A somehow tense silence fell between them. Salyu ignored Natsuhiko's bewilderment and subtly continued the conversation. All names have some sort of meaning behind them. There's no such thing as meaningless names. Is that how it works? That's how it works. You people have quite meaningful names. What do you mean? You haven't noticed? Well, I guess it is just a coincidence. No, I haven't noticed a thing. He didn't understand her in the slightest. Even the nickname Salyu has meaning. I don't think Machido noticed at all, but it's pronounced the same as salute, which means hi in French. A salutation, the beginning of communication. Ah, that's right. It was all news to him, but he wasn't going to let her know that. As further aside, it also sounds similar to the word Sairyu in Japanese, meaning tear rain. Sairyu? You've never heard of it? Never in my life. You're so ignorant, I thought you were Japanese. The sudden disparagement annoyed Natsuhiko. What the hell's going on? Can we get this conversation over with already? The moment that thought crossed Natsuhiko's mind. Phew! Salyu's stuffed animal let out a weirder cry than before. Salyu gasped when she heard it. Why did she gasp? Salyu looked at the utterly confused Natsuhiko with gloomy eyes. If you'll excuse me, I have to do my daily routine. Huh? Wait! Salyu ignored Natsuhiko and darted back inside. What? What just happened? Natsuhiko was at his wit's end, not understanding a lick of what occurred. And it didn't look like he could find an answer just by thinking about it. The questions only piled up. So in the end, he never heard what exactly she meant by protecting him. But still, honestly, what's with that girl? Salyu's attitude was the same as when they parted ways at the Parapsychology Research Center earlier that day. Natsuhiko stood alone at the entryway, pondering Salyu's words. But still, protect me how? Sully's words were most likely not being made out of the kindness of her heart. She appeared to only be begrudgingly following Dr. Tenkawa's orders. Why did Mum really order Sully to do that? I don't think that's the case, because she said she's also under no obligation to protect you. Which means she's doing it because she accepted to do that, not because she has to? After all, Rokume City excelled in public order. Very rarely did anyone get dragged into a crime. But even so, there was something that bothered him. Now that I think about it, Mr. Ukita's part of Labo's staff. He's Mum's co-worker. What if that car crash wasn't an accident? What if some circumstances are causing those with connections to Labo to be targeted? He considered the thought for a moment, but he couldn't think of any rationale behind it, because they're researchers. What do you think? Why did the professor give neither Natsuhiko nor Salyu a proper explanation? Furthermore, did Salyu really just come to protect Natsuhiko? It's no use, I don't understand a thing. Natsuhiko muttered to himself and quit trying to think about it. Doesn't look like there's going to be any real harm done, so I'll just leave things as they are. If thinking won't solve something, then I try not to think about it. That was the mantra of Natsuhiko's lifestyle. But even so, Natsuhiko had a faint worry in the back of his mind. The worry that events he couldn't see were slowly coming to a head. Natsuhiko took a quick look at his watch and realized it was already past 8 PM. He pulled himself together and hopped back through the entryway into his home. In the living room, Natsuhiko saw no signs of Salyu. Instead, he found Yuri quietly reading a book. Ah, welcome back, Hikiden. Did you walk Mashidon home properly? Oh, yeah, I did. Okay, good. Yuri's casual tone of voice was a relief to Natsuhiko. A lot happened today, but it's a huge relief that Yuri's the same as always. All his worries and weariness were washed away with one look at Yuri's smile. Natsuhiko returned his smile and sank into the sofa. How did you spend your day today, Yuri? Same as yesterday. I did a little knitting and read 2 books from a series. A series? What kind of story is it? Let's see. It's a heartfelt series of romance novels. It's written in the format of the protagonist writing down his memories of the past. The opening line was quite impressive. Memories are ambiguous. It really drew me in. I mean, they are. Memories are ambiguous? Yeah, according to the protagonist himself, people tend to rewrite their own memories unconsciously. And so, even the story itself is not necessarily the truth. Isn't it interesting for a romance novel to begin like that? Yeah, though it sounds a tad perplexing. But you know, as you continue the story, you learn that it really is like that. Memories are never reliable. You can end up recalling something completely different depending on your current situation and mental state. Huh? Does that really happen? Of course it does. For example, let's say someone was deeply in love. As long as that love endured, their memory of their love together, their memory of their lover might be radiant, but if that love were to end, those memories could turn bitter, couldn't they? Yeah, true. That does sound plausible. I've never experienced it myself, so I can't say for sure though. It's not just romance though, the same happens in casual everyday events, don't you think? Sometimes you can mix things up that you said with things that someone else said, right? I know that feeling. Marshido and I often argue whether I said this or she said that, right? And so eventually the protagonist of the story becomes aware that each time he recalls his own past, his memories get subtly rewritten. Even if the truth doesn't change, feelings do. There is no absolute truth. The past is a haze of ambiguity. So not even the protagonist himself knows which memories are real, but that's all I've read so far, saving the rest for tomorrow. I see. Even Yuri was confusing him now. Natsuhiko's shoulders drooped. She softly smiled and continued. But still, even though we don't know the end of the story, it feels like a hopeful one, doesn't it? Hopeful because memories are ambiguous? Yeah, memories may change, but even so, wouldn't it be nice if one day all memories, sweet and bitter ones alike, could change into something beautiful? Her words sounded more than just a simple impression of a novel, but her expression was unexpectedly calm, which relieved Natsuhiko as he answered. You're right, it really would be nice. I know, right? But still, Yuri, you really like to talk about stuff like memories, don't you? You've talked about a novel like that before too, haven't you? One where all the characters had completely different testimonials of what happened during the same event? Yeah, I love that topic. Just a tiny change in memory could make you and someone else have completely different impressions of the same thing. Now that she mentioned it, Natsuhiko noticed that he and Mashido had a completely contrary impressions of Salyu. That reminds me, I haven't directly asked Yuri about her yet, have I? And with that thought in mind, Natsuhiko asked her with a sigh. Say Yuri, since we're talking about impressions and all... Huh? What's up? What do you think about Salyu? Huh? What's this all of a sudden? Hikiden, do you have something against Salyu? No, nothing like that. It's just, I was wondering if you're okay with us suddenly getting a new addition to the household. I'm okay, but I'm more worried about Salyu. She seems nervous to me. Huh? You think so too, Yuri? Hey Hikiden, try to be friends with Salyu. Like how you became friends with me. Keep it maxed out. Like how I became friends with you? That was a story from long, long ago. Natsuhiko's brain became filled with memories of those days. He felt as if time itself were melting away as he recalled the memory of the day he and Yuri first met. That day was nearly 10 years ago. On that day alone, all of Natsuhiko's playmates were busy, including Mashido. What a waste of a Sunday. Natsuhiko went and played by himself in the park, bored. And that was when he met Yuri, who was doing the same. For some reason, tears were spilling down her face. She was so quiet, yet so sad. Upon seeing her, Natsuhiko got concerned and asked her, Hey, why are you crying? Huh? That was the first conversation Natsuhiko and Yuri ever had. Who are you? I'm Natsuhiko. Natsuhiko? You're Yuri Katono, right? Your family just moved in nearby? Yeah. Let's be friends, we live in the same neighborhood after all. Can we? Huh? Are we not allowed to be friends? I mean, I'm a Nesper. A Nes? Oh, you mean a communicator? Yeah, I see. So? Huh? I might end up reading people's feelings, you know. You're not scared? Well, no, not really. Anyway, hey, let's go play together. Thank you. And then the two of them started to play together. Though they weren't quite sure what they could play with just the two of them. They started off only playing simple games like Hoop Hopscotch and S-Ken. But just hopping up and down on the lawn brought a smile to Yuri's face. Ooh, you're pretty good at this, Yuri. That's not true. You're a lot better than me at these games, Natsuhiko. But it really gets you tired, huh? Let's take a break. Yeah. And two of them sat down together on the grass. Natsuhiko took a deep breath and asked Yuri a question. By the way, Yuri, why'd you move to this town? Daddy said it's best for me. Huh? He said there's a ton of Nespers in Rokume City. He said I wouldn't be creepy here. That reminded Natsuhiko. His mother had told him this town had far more communicators than other towns. That's true. I apparently have the aptitude for it too. Huh? Natsuhiko, are you a communicator too? Yeah, apparently. I can't use telepathy yet though. I see. Actually, me neither. We're the same then. Natsuhiko laughed. Yuri smiled in reply. And besides, it's not just me. This girl I know, Mashido, she's one too. She has a super high aptitude too. There's lots of communicators in this town. So much they're nothing out of the ordinary. So you're not going to creep anyone out, okay Yuri? Not even you, Natsuhiko? Of course not. Promise? I promise, okay? You're such a worrywart, Yuri. Natsuhiko smiled and Yuri smiled back in return. Thank goodness, I was actually super nervous. Huh? What for? I was worried I couldn't make friends after moving. I didn't think that I could. But we're friends already, aren't we? Yep. Lots of kids come to this park. If you come here, you'll make lots of other friends too. Thank you, I'll come here lots. After all, I made friends with you, my first time here. Yuri said only that much before suddenly making a face, as if she'd suddenly remembered something. Ah, that reminds me. Natsuhiko, why did you call out to me? You've never met me before and I'm a girl too. Huh? Well, just cause. Huh? Just cause? Yuri seemed a little disappointed. But Natsuhiko lied. The real reason was because he saw Yuri crying. That's why he called out to her. Because he wanted to be there for her. And for these past 10 years, he always had been. Once he'd remembered that day, he finally became self-aware of the reason why he had his guard up around Salyu. I see, so that's what it was. I'm afraid of Mum and Salyu trying to change my current life. This home was a place of peace for Natsuhiko. a safe haven from all the evils that threatened to break Yuri's fragile heart. Natsuhiko had already almost lost that refuge once, only barely managing to recover it. He'd been fervently protecting it ever since. I'm happy with the stats as they are. He didn't like the feeling of an outsider stepping foot into his sanctuary, which was why he was putting on such an emphasis on Yuri's feelings in the present situation. Say, Yuri, you don't have any objections to Salyu living here, do you? Nope. What about you, Hikiden? Personally, I don't mind, but I want to be on your side. I'm perfectly fine with it. Are you sure you can be honest with me, okay? I'm sure, Hikiden, you're such a worrywart. I see. Yuri turned Natsuhiko's words from yesterday against him. I guess we're both a couple of worrywarts then. I'm glad you care about me and all, but why does it bother you that much? To be honest, I'm confused. That girl says a bunch of strange things. Strange things? Like what? She said she's here to protect me. Doesn't that seem kind of backwards to you? At those words, Yuri made an odd smile, and then suddenly spoke in a quiet voice. Hikiden, you shouldn't assume the worst of people. Huh? I'm sure Salyu's being honest. Those words startled Natsuhiko. What? Something's different about Yuri, just like yesterday. She suddenly spoke with a serious look on her face. She never used to do that in the past. She seemed almost like an entirely different person. Yuri continued, staring straight into Natsuhiko's confused eyes. When Salyu was assigned to protect you, she'd finally found a role for herself. That was something she always wanted. What? Yuri, why do you sound like you've known Salyu from somewhere before? Don't tell me you've known each other from the start. If that were the case, then he'd easily understand why she wasn't at all disturbed by Salyu's sudden moving in. But Yuri silently shook her head. No, I only met her just now, in the same way you did, Hikiden. But I can tell. It's a red one. Uh-oh. I turned it right up though, so we should be good. Right? Let's go one notch down from all the way up. But I can tell. How? How indeed. But I'm sure Salyu's on your side, Hikiden. On my side? It's hard to believe that so suddenly. I guess that's true. Yuri smiled sadly as she said so. Both you and I have lived in fear of change after all. But one day we have to accept it, or else we'll be trapped in the past forever. She fell silent. The only sound in the still room was the ticking of the hands on the wall clock. Clock? Natsuhiko gasped. That's right, yesterday when Yuri started talking with this tone of voice, the watch. He looked at his watch only to find it had broken before he'd realized it. No way! Natsuhiko looked at his watch and stared in disbelief. The dial had cracked. The hands were stopped and the date displayed was days into the future. 9/16, 6/19. Early morning, 5 days from today. Why? Yuri continued despite Natsuhiko's terror. Hey, Hikiden, no matter how many things make no sense around you, no matter how many things seem suspicious, no matter what's the truth and what's a lie, you should be in the company of those with good intentions, shouldn't you? So don't distrust those around you. If you must distrust someone, then distrust me. And with that, Yuri turned around and left the living room. Yuri? Wait, what do you mean? Natsuhiko chased after Yuri, placed his hands on the living room door, and opened it. The jammed gate opened with a jarring sound, and with that, it is time to wrap this episode up here. Man, this game is really good at providing cliffhangers for us to wrap up episodes on, isn't it? What is Yuri's deal? How is she able to do that? Is that her doing that? Is someone talking through her? Is she talking from the future? All these things and more we probably won't find out in the next episode. Until then, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.